So
Laura, you need no introduction, so take it away.
okay. Well, thanks everybody for showing up here today. I know it's a very, I don't know the right word, but it's definitely an edgy and an emotional day for all of us. So we're going to take our heads out of it for a moment and focus on what we can control, which is making our classes for the remainder of the semester and as we go forward in this remote teaching as interactive as possible. So what we're going to be talking about today is fitting to the, obviously to election day, but it's really about keeping students interacting as you are in your as you're in these online live sync class sessions. And so it's about polling, but I'm kind of expanding the notion of polling just a little bit. And I hope that I will be able to go through these activities and you can share your own. I'm sure you have a lot of your own variations and ideas on them. And if there's any technical questions, we can also address those more towards the end. So what I want you to do now is make sure that if my screen is really big, my shared screen, that you kind of move it to make it a bit smaller. You can hit escape so that you can see your chat clearly, and you can also see all the participants here as well. So when you go to your Zoom control bar, you can click on participants and actually see a panel of all the participants as well. And I'm going to ask people to stay on mute just so I can kind of move through some of the activities in a peaceful way, and then we can open up. So first thing is in your chat area, want to make sure everybody has their chat open and to the side so that you can post anything you want throughout, reactions, ideas, questions, because I know you all really help each other a lot during these sessions. So if you could go to the chat and just say if you are a Democrat or Republican. Just kidding, just kidding. So those are the polling questions that we don't ask. Okay, so I'm going to just have you put on the chat where you are dialing in from this morning, where you're joining us from on Zoom, which is something I often ask because it sort of gives us a little perspective. It just gets people's chat open and have it on there to the side. Fabulous. And Roberta's in Massachusetts. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so we like to begin with a little bit of stretching. So I know a lot of you have your videos on. If everybody wants to turn on their video for a minute, just so we can like see each other and be embodied. And I'm gonna have my friend Kathleen Isaac, the Arnhold Dance Chair Emeritus Queen of all time, if she would just give us a nice seated, like, Zen moment type stretch. I feel I need to Zen to like center.
Let's start with a big breath and reach out to the sides, up to the top. Clasp your hands together and just stretch gently and a little bit to the back, not so that it's uncomfortable, and then a little bit to the front and bring your arms down. And then put your palms together and stretch towards your screen and then out and away. Let's try that again. Reach up, take a deep breath, clasp your hands, pull up.
And Jack, I need you to do it, buddy.
A little bit back and then fold your screen.
Hey, Ronald, there you go.
And then press your hands into your heart and then out towards the screen and push away. And then just shake your hands and up and wiggle your shoulders and just wiggle your spine a little bit in your seat and just swing your head gently. Just side to side, not to the back because we don't want to hurt our spines. And then come to a nice seated pose.
Oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I actually really do. Kathleen, I wish you were with me on every class because I can't come up with anything when I'm teaching. I'm like, turn
Uh,
to the side, turn to the side, and then we're done.
well, maybe
Thank
I
you.
can record something and
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
with some students or something and have
That
us
would be
come across
so
to it.
cool. Like a 2 minute open your
Yeah,
Zoom class stretch.
and
That'd
people
be
can
fabulous.
insert it. Yeah.
Wonderful. And yeah, Tara, awesome. Be who you are. You can turn off your videos now, relax, whatever you like. I love seeing your faces though, if you want to stay on. So I wanted to give you just sort of a couple of thoughts on using polls in these live sync classes. Um, First thing, these are kind of obvious, but as I was collecting my thoughts for you all for today, first thing is they have to be pre-planned for the most part. So when you're looking through the content and the activities that you're presenting for one of your live synchronous classes, think about good pause moments. Pause moments can be right before you launch into an activity, could be midway, could be at the end of an activity. Obviously, polls are great to kind of quickly collect student feedback, insights into what's happening, just getting the feel of the room, taking the temperature, which we know is really different with Zoom versus being in a room with students. You can just get them to sort of activate some prior knowledge about the topic to get them primed for your presentation. And I like using them to rile up controversy. So giving them a controversial statement where they're going to want to take or make an opinion, those are very good too for polling. Also, though, be ready to change course based on poll responses. So you might want to sometimes allow for some student choice or input. So let's say it's sort of a moment where you want to review some things from last session. If you give a poll where students can choose what topics they want a little more clarification on, you don't really need to prepare anything. You'll be able to respond, but you can kind of see what is it that students mostly want to hear about. Or it could be a decision you're trying to make about next week and what to post for the next class. So it can be a quick way to get feedback that will help you in that moment, maybe change course. Not so much maybe all of a sudden you're going to find new materials at that moment, but you can decide how you might use a section of time or move forward to the next class based on their responses. And I want you to always think about the misconceptions or misunderstandings that are very common in your subject area. Those are great to pull into. So if you know you've presented something or they've read something and most likely they didn't understand it, or they are persisting with a certain myth or misconception or preconceived idea on the topic, it's great to put out a poll because generally they'll fall for it. So you kind of trap them into the wrong answer. And that's very effective cognitively. We will tend to remember, for example, if Xiao is my instructor and she's posted something about, does VoiceThread do A, B, or C, right? And I think it's C, but it's not C. I'm going to retain that and realize, oh, I was wrong about that. Sometimes better than her just saying it. Well, VoiceThread does A, B, and C and moves on because it's more passive for me. I may or may not attend. So if there's a point, for example, that you're going to give on feedback to your students that they tend to get wrong or have the maybe not quite the right idea about, polls are great to sort of expose it during class because generally they're not the only one. The other flip side of that is instructors. We tend to think that students understand certain things that they don't. Just because we've said it or presented it and it's been in the reading and we feel we've said it so many times, it might be something that still students don't understand. So use it as a moment to check what's important to you in whatever content you're presenting, making sure that you're getting back the not that 100% of people are going to have it, but enough so you feel, okay, I'm getting my points across. I think when we're physically in rooms, We see the look on people's faces, you know, they look puzzled, they're not sure. So it's hard to know in the Zoom environment, especially with so many students, cameras off, or they're just maybe a little bit off the screen or whatever. You're not being able to as easily read the room and kind of catch some of those misunderstandings as they're happening. So polling can be very useful for that. You can't, you know, you can't love too much. You can't poll too much either. I mean, yeah, if you polled every 5 seconds, maybe that's too much. But in general, from my experience, I think we tend to poll too little. Polling, I'm going to use again as sort of as a loose term for a number of ways to check in with students during a live sync class. But I think really after about 20 minutes, you need to be checking in. I would use that. That's totally anecdotal. Maybe there's some better research on that. But I think in general, our attention span is only so long. So it's generally good to stop and break and kind of assess either what was just covered, what their thoughts are, or what might be coming up next in your presentation. Okay. So I'm going to just go over 4 tools today. And because I don't want it to be overdose on tools, Zoom itself, a tool called, and these are free, the other ones, I'm using all free versions of Mentimeter, Poll Everywhere, and Peardeck. Some of you are probably familiar with, you know, all of these options, you know, some of you may not be as familiar with some. I do have a preference for Mentimeter and for Peardeck more than Poll Everywhere, but I know Poll Everywhere is used a lot. So I've tried to kind of fumble my way through that. I haven't used it as much. So maybe others who are more experienced can help with that. But what I wanted to present was 10 approaches that I'm calling polling, but they are variations on polling. They include bar charts, using chat function, yes/no functions, breakout rooms, word clouds, quizzing, ranking, scales, dragging, and drawing. Some of these, I mean, most of these could be all accomplished, for example, in Mentimeter and Zoom alone. Actually, probably all of them could be, maybe except for dragging and drawing. That's only for Peardeck. But hopefully you'll get something out of these options. And yeah, I know someone mentioned they like maybe Cynthia, about my Bitmoji. So Cynthia, that is just, you create a Bitmoji on your phone using, you know, your iPhone app or your Android app, and then you add it on as on your Chrome. I have that as a Chrome extension, so it's easy for me to drop my little guys in there. Okay, so we're going to start with one that you're probably quite familiar with, which is the polling feature. So what I'm going to do is on the back end, here we go. I'm going to launch the poll. Now, I'm going to find out right now in my poll if you're familiar with doing Zoom polling. So I'm launching my poll, and it should appear as a pop-up box on your end, and you're going to tell me what your level of expertise is in doing Zoom polling. This what I'm doing right now, the Zoom poll. Is it popping up for you? Yeah. It's interesting because mine's not saying that I have answers. I wonder if there's a little delay for some reason.
I see it. I don't know if it's because you're the host or not. I see it on my end.
You're seeing the poll results, Paul?
Yeah, and it's 15. All 15 have taken it.
Okay, so this is maybe the challenge we had with this thing. So can you share it?
I think so. I'm going to end it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks, Paul.
Can everyone see it?
Yep.
Okay. So 6 is, I have basic knowledge. You can see it, Laura?
No, go ahead, because I can't see it.
You still can't see it? You still can't see it? Oh.
No, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Wait, can everyone see the result? Can everyone see it now?
Yes.
Can you see that, Laura?
I
So
can't, but it's okay. It could be
Okay.
because I have like a different screens. It might be hidden. It's okay. You can read us the results, Paul.
I'm completely green was 4, which is the third
Okay.
highest, 27%. The highest was 2, I have some basic knowledge, which is 40%. Then comes I have solid background, which is the second highest, and no one says they're an expert. So
Okay.
a lot of shy people here not saying they're experts, even though I know there are many
Even though
experts.
we know they are, we know for sure. We got to have at least Shao saying, yes, he's an expert. I mean, come on. Yes, Shao, just pretend you're an expert, because if you're not, then we are all sunk. We're lost. Okay, so that's great. So obviously the Zoom tool itself that you might be teaching in has polling built into it. And you can see my screen still, right? So you see that I'm just showing you what it looks like when you set up a poll. So if you haven't done it before, you can do it when the class has already started. Just it's going to bring you to the same area. But if you want to pre-plan it, you go into your meeting, and at the bottom of your meeting, there's an option for polls, and you can set up as many as a lot. I think it's like 50 or something. So you can set them up in advance, and then just go to your polling area on your toolbar and select it. Be careful though. So I have a few polls that I already made. And so when I go to launch my poll, the first one that comes up is actually not the one I wanted to use. So I have to do the drop down caret and choose the right poll that I want. So I'm not launching a poll I didn't mean to launch. Okay, so that's a real quick and simple. The constraints are, as you can see, it's either a choose one, multiple choice, or it is a checklist, choosing a couple of options. I can either choose a couple options or one options. So it's closed ended in that way, but it could be very serviceable for most kinds of things that you can come up with. And because it's built into Zoom itself, and if you're teaching on Zoom, it just makes it one less place people have to go. That can kind of save time. Okay, another way to use polling in Zoom is to actually use the chat area. So I want you to give me A or B for which artwork captures your mood today. So you're looking at my screen and you're choosing A or B, and you're going over to chat and you're putting A or B into the chat. Now, if I didn't want people to see each other's answers, I could tell my students, go over to this, but only message privately. So you can also do it that way. Fabulous. So now I could, of course, stop and ask a couple of people. It's a way to, again, I call it just making sure people are alive. It's like, are you alive? Are you breathing? Are you with me? So I guess that's very like a low bar to set for teaching. But I think with the Zoom, sometimes it doesn't have to be a major, thank you, Julie. It doesn't have to be a major question, because in fact, polling type questions like this are not conducive to long responses. They're just kind of a quick, hey, what do you think? Where are you going? And of course, because you're using probably PowerPoint or slides with your Zoom presentations for your live classes, you can preload anything you want. It could be a series of images, a series of words, a series of sentences, numbers, charts, anything you want, and you can just put A, B, C, D, or whatever right into the pictures on your slide and just use chat for quick polling. That can be another way to, again, just kind of check and see where people are at, and you decide if it's something you want to continue to talk more about. Okay, another really simple one using polling within Zoom itself is the yes, no feature. So if you could go to participants, and this is a little tricky because there is a little, reactions, thumbs up, but it doesn't have a thumbs down. It only thumbs up and smiling. So we don't want the reactions in the toolbar. You want to hit on participants. And at the bottom of your participant panel, like you see on my screen, is a yes, no. So what I'd like you to do is, if you could give me a yes or no if you've already voted for president. Okay. So again, I was joking earlier about, are you a Democrat or Republican? Because these are the things you don't poll. So you have to be sensitive too about how you phrase questions, depending on the topic, etc. Some of these that are more icebreakers or warm-ups, you don't know people as well, so you have to be a little more cautious maybe than when you're dealing with the subject area of your class. So right now, what's nice is, as I look as a host in the same area of participants, I can see by each name, like Cynthia has a check mark, but at the bottom, it has 12 yeses and 1 no. So I can also see the tally of how many have selected yes or no on just using the participant window. Now, let me ask somebody, maybe Julie, on your participant panel, can you see the totals or what other people have said yes or no next to their name?
I can see what other people have chosen, but not a total.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So this one is public, is more public. The polling we did before using Zoom's poll feature, you couldn't tell how else anyone voted. So that one is more private. It can be better for things that are maybe more sensitive, or when you're asking students, did you understand this, or do you need more help? They're not going to say no or yes, I need help in front of everybody. So those are better anonymous. But things like that don't matter as much, or you want everyone to see what everyone thinks, you might use something like this, a yes, no in the participants. So we're still in Zoom so far, and we've already done a few things. So we're going to do one more kind of polling in Zoom. A very popular activity that maybe some of you have done in classrooms is called like 4 corners, where you might say something, you have people go to a corner of the room based on their idea or response, and then they can discuss it, and then you can reshuffle people to other corners of the room. So now that Zoom has this new feature where you can choose your breakout room, this gives us now the possibilities of doing this type of polling or activity work. So you might give a statement. One quick and easy thing to do is to name all your breakout rooms, agree, strongly disagree, etc., that Likert scale, because then you don't have to change the names. It can just stay, and you can change the statements that you put on your slides, but use the same setup for your breakout rooms. So I'm going to open these rooms, and what you're going to do is go to a breakout room on your toolbar, and you're going to choose the room that you want to go into. Tell me, Paul, if that's working, because I know we have a little bit of a thingy with me not hosting or whatever.
I see it. I see the 4, and so you can pick which one you want to go into. You want everyone to join a group real quick?
Yeah. Let me look at the time. Yeah. Why don't you just try it? You don't have to talk. Just go in the room and come back to this main session just to see what it's like from the student point of view or participant to choose a room, because it's a new feature, and just come right back. And Tara doesn't see a room. So Tara, it could be that you don't have the latest version of Zoom. If you haven't updated to the latest version, you won't be able to select.
I think you can just assign her then usually, right?
Then I could assign. So that's fine. Okay, Valerie's done before, so she's staying, no worries. And Jack, perhaps that's the same situation, and Margaret too, that you need the Zoom update. Okay.
Laura, I did the
Yeah.
Zoom update and I'm seeing everyone else, but I don't know how to add myself.
Okay, just click on, can you click on, so wherever you see the room, let's say it says agree. If you go across to the right, can you click so it says join?
Oh yeah, okay.
Okay, it is a little tricky, I think. Perfect. So Cynthia, great. I'm glad that you wanted to ask about that. So I'm going to close the rooms just to bring everybody back. Although some people are still popping around. So let me give them another minute. And I think Cynthia's still in the room. Yeah, you're here, Cynthia. So this is a brand new feature. It's only been like a week or two for Zoom, where you can choose your own breakout room. It's new. So it's a great new feature, and I'll talk about it in a sec. You know what? I'm going to close the rooms.
I
and just
love
make
it.
sure.
Good question. How do you
Yeah.
rename the rooms? Previously, you couldn't do that. They were only rooms 1 through whatever.
I know. It's great. What happens now, so I'll wait for everybody to come back in, and then I'll go over it. I just don't want to have everyone miss out. Let me see if I can get everybody to come back. Let's see. Are you able, is Paul's there? Yeah, Paul, can you just, are you
I
able
think
to?
everyone's, so I think everyone's there. I don't see a breakout room as an option now. So I think everyone,
Okay, see, mine still has it. I can still see people in there. So perfect. Okay, hopefully we're all here. Let me just look at the participants right now, the number. Should be all right. Okay, so the way it works, if you're familiar with setting up breakout rooms, you know that it was always really hard to set them up in advance of your class, because unless your students logged in with the exact Zoom account for which you're using their email to pre-assign, it sometimes didn't work. So you would generally just do, random assignment, or have to drag people from room to room under, like, while you're sweating, because you wanted them in certain groups. So what's really nice now with the new Zoom update is when you go as a host to create your breakout rooms, it still says automatic, random, manual, but it also now says, what does it say? Choose your own, participants select their own room. So when you choose that option, you get a pop-up window like you did before: breakout room 1, breakout room 2, breakout room 3, and now there's a place to say rename. And I renamed them before we started. So now if I want to have everybody come out and now do it again, polling everyone for a different question, I just have to change my slide on my presentation, and everyone can go choose again their room. And it's just obviously a really nice upgrade, because if you do have people where you're doing an activity where you want students to choose which room they want to work in, or they know their own groups already, they can just go themselves to the groups. If students are doing presentations, then students can choose which they want to hear, for example. And you still have control to move people. So if someone hasn't updated Zoom, you can move them themselves. They can just tell you what room they want, and you can move them. Or if you see a group is too big in one room, you could, manually move or go into the room and tell them. But in terms of using it, breakout room, choice breakout room, as a type of polling, that's another way to kind of see quickly how many people go to which room, and they can either have a conversation there or not. Okay, so now I'm going to come out of Zoom. So what is probably going to be easiest for you is either to use a phone, if you have a phone around, or get ready to click on another tab on your browser, because we're coming out of Zoom now. We're going to go to Mentimeter. So with Mentimeter, what I want you to do is to get to the place where you can see and participate in these polls. So I'm going to the chat. I'm going to also type in the chat the website, which is menti.com. And it'll ask you for a code, which is 2707117. I've put that in the chat. If you hold up your phone on picture, as if you're taking a picture, to my QR code, it should also work for you. At least I hope so. Okay. Let me come here for a second. So all right, so Shao, tell me, are you able to see the words coming up on the screen on my word cloud? Okay, great. So this is another type of polling, which is called a word cloud. And is another way to kind of gauge, quickly assess what people are thinking, what they retained from something you presented, a burning question for them. And as a certain word is repeated, it becomes bigger on the word cloud. So it's sort of a quantitative measure of how many times certain things are. You could even ask people, which topic of these three would you like me to review, for you in a review video? And they have to enter that language. It's going to pop up here. So it's very versatile. And of course, visual, a mess, fear, anxiety, stress, debacle. Hope is getting very small now, extremely small. One of the things that is good to know about Mentimeter when you set up a word cloud is allow it to for participants to enter as many terms as they want. I find Mentimeter very easy to use when you set up these slides, and they stay there. So you can repurpose them, over and over in different classes, or keep them, in my case, I've had some of these for many years that I can go back to. And wow, so stress, that's really coming out. I can see that. So word clouds are another way to work with polling. I'm going to do, okay, another one. I'm gonna turn on my music. Okay, so I can make it a quiz. Quizzing is another feature in Mentimeter. Now, if the English professor doesn't get it right, we're really gonna have a problem here. Very nice. Okay, so so one of the things that's kind of, you all sort of, the people I could see got a little like, what? There's a quiz, there's music. It's sort of ratchet. Again, going back to keeping people alive, quiz functions are fun. Obviously, there's no real penalty, but just calling it a quiz makes students sort of like, ooh, I'm ready to go. And it's timed, so it creates a bit of urgency. One of the things I think that's important to keep people alive in these Zoom classes is a little bit of sense of urgency at times, because they'll just, conk out on you. So it could be something, obviously this is like a grammar question. It could be anything that relates to, of course, your topic you can set up as a quiz. And you can have a leaderboard. So I can have this either with people's real names, or I could just have, people will know who Croc is. I'm not sure. Hopefully Croc knows who they are. And that's a person who not only got the answer right, but got it the fastest. So in this case, I've set it up to be fast and accurate. So leaderboards are fun too, because they add that sort of energy to something that's like a poll, basically. Okay. Okay, another type of polling question you can do in Mentimeter is presented next, and that is a ranking type activity. So you can see the results coming in on the screen. Paul, I hope that was you. Okay. I want to see who's going to put phys ed, because Maybe that's Kathleen Isaac. I don't know. Maybe not. Foreign language. Art, music, social studies. So you're ranking. So this is fun too, because Mentimeter is responsive as results come in. You start to think, oh, English is the most, oh no, it's not English, it's math that's the most popular. So again, you can put all kinds of ideas, concepts, even just icebreakers like this in the format of ranking. And that's another type of polling that the display is, you know, quite visual, and you can see math. Oh man, I don't know if I can keep going with this session. Okay, so Mentimeter has those types of polling options as well. Oh, oops, I'm having an internet issue. Okay, am I good? Am I with you? My internet was a little janky there for a second. Okay, this is Poll Everywhere. As I mentioned before, I'm not as experienced with Poll Everywhere, but I did want to show you a couple of ways it can work. So if you go to Poll Everywhere .com and / so I'm going to put this in the chat as well. Get my chat open. Okay. Now let me see if that's going to be working. Is this one working, Chow, for you? Okay. So in this case, we have something that's more of a visual. So you can put things up that are pictures or images, and people can select. So we see people's they're dropping their pins on different pictures. So that's one style of using Poll Everywhere to use polling on kind of as scales for something. So you can place yourself on a scale. Let me come back here. Another one that's nice and Poll Everywhere. Is this one popping up for you? The map? Make sure it's activated. Okay. So you see here, I had to hit activate in order for this one to start working. That's why I find it a bit janky. The Mentimeter has a completely different, I'm not going to use the right technical terms, but it has one URL for you as the user, and one URL for your participants. And so it's easier for me to see which one I'm on. But with Poll Everywhere, I can't tell which one I'm on, but it's a user issue. It's me because I'm not as familiar with it. So beautiful. So with this is really the same function as the faces. It's dropping a pin, but it's kind of neat that you can place your pin along, let's say, in a set of images or even like a map. So this is wonderful. Let me go back and do the last one here in Poll Everywhere, which is one where you can post, kind of put a Post-it note on the bulletin board. Okay, Kit Kats. So this is also a type of polling that you can use in a lot of different tools, like Mentimeter does this as well. You notice with this is not a word cloud, so I'm seeing the same things repeating. So in some cases, a word cloud is better and neater because as a lot of people are saying the same things, it'll just be that one word. Snickers. Okay, I'm with you, Snickers people. Butterfinger, those are great when you want to like break a cap that you've just had recently put in your mouth. Those are really good. Okay, So Poll Everywhere, I showed you a few tools in there. And then the last one I want to show you is Peardeck. So for Peardeck, you're going to the website, you're going to joinpd.com, joinpeardeck.com, and then you're entering this code. So I'm going to come over to here to my presentation. All right. So now the nice thing about Peardeck is it actually integrates directly into your slides. So what I can do with that is I can actually run my whole class without coming out. I'm in Peardeck. These are the slides I've already shown you. But when I get to a Peardeck slide, it's going to actually be active and connected. So before, you notice I came out of my slide deck and I went over and showed you Mentimeter results, or I showed you Poll Everywhere. I came out of my slide deck. This is integrated with the slide deck. So this one is kind of nice for that. Let's see if this is going to work. Is this one working? Give me a high sign. No. Okay, so I must need to do something. It says 10 students connected.
I can't really slide things. I do see a little
reason.
circle, but I can't
Oh,
slide.
there we go. There we go. Perfect. So here I'm in my presenter looking at it. And what's nice is, so here, thank you, you guys, I'm losing it. Okay. With Peardeck, because it's integrated into my slides, I can wait to show results. So right now, everyone is seeing the empty screen, but you as participants have actually given responses. But, and I can see how many, there's 10 out of 11 people have responded, but I don't have to show them yet. So if I don't want everyone to just copy what everyone else said for a polling question, this works well, because now I can show where people are. So this is a type of dragging. You know, I can put myself wherever I want on a picture, on a rating scale. I feel more close to this idea or that idea or whatever. And it's fun, right? It's kind of a fun tool, again, for people to be alive. But see, now when students start doing that and they're like playing and moving all over, all I have to do is hide it so that I'm done with seeing that. You can't advance to my next Peardeck question until I advance my slide. So when I advance my slide, it gives you a new slide. And in this case, I can do something like actually draw a picture, or I could type in words. So this gives another way for me to respond to a poll question. Okay. So if somebody wants to put something on there, that would be awesome. Okay. For some reason, I'm not seeing my responses coming up yet. Okay, so I'm going to come back. So we'll come out of Peardeck and we will wrap up here. So I wanted to thank you, because I know this was a little bit long, but I didn't want to rush through all of these, just so that you had a little chance to kind of process them and actually do them, actually participate in the polling. I think that's very helpful to do it on the student side. So I'm going to stop here. If there are any questions, anything anyone wants to share that they've been doing with polling, ideas, anything, please go ahead, and I will stop sharing. And I'm going to share my PowerPoint deck with you. There are some embedded links and resources and articles and stuff in there as well. Okay. Yeah, Roberta.
Round of applause for Laura.
Hey, thank you, everybody. You guys are awesome.
There's a couple questions in the chat too.
Go ahead, Roberta.
I put in the text that I've used Poll Everywhere in PowerPoint. You can embed
I
the
don't hear her.
Poll Everywhere poll in your PowerPoint.
Roberta?
Can you hear me?
Anyone else have a question that you want to ask?
I could hear Roberta, so I wonder if that's,
Oh, is it my sound? Duh. I turn my
I don't
sound
know.
down.
yeah, but you can hear.
Turn
Yeah,
my sound
I've
down.
used it.
When I did the quiz, when all that music was playing for the quiz, I turned my sound down, and of course I couldn't hear you. I'm so sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry to
Okay,
repeat.
I was just saying,